All right.
I would like to thank Tina for her review of mission part 1, and I'll be doing part 2. It has to do with community assessment. Let's go over the learning objectives on page 13. And your great participant name, turn to page 13. Page 13, yes.
Okay.
We're still on the mission. This is part 2
Okay.
that deals with needs assessment. Participants are introduced to Peter Drucker Management Framework as a support for ROMA principles and practices. Participants will be able to understand the purpose of the mission statement and identify its elements. Identify the difference between family agency or community needs statements. Understand the proper identification of the problem sets the path for the solution. Participants recognize that identification of resources is an important part of the assessment process. Participants learn that the importance of gathering data from multiple sources to ensure a comprehensive community assessment. Participants are introduced to a data analysis prioritization process. Now, the last 5 learning objectives have to do with part B. I think I read all of them, but it's only the last 5. The first 2 has to do with the mission. Let's turn to page 21. Okay. This segment helps to establish the need for a meaning, and I'm just speaking, it's not in the book. This segment helps to establish the need for a meaningful linkage between the organization mission and the intervention and services offered to clients. The link is the identification of what the community needs. I will be engaging you in a discussion and activities designed to stress the importance of conducting a community assessment in the overall implementation of the ROMA cycle. So now, this begins the discussion about community assessment.
What page?
We're on page 21. But like I said, I'm not reading from the book right now. So now that we know why we are in business from our mission statement, so we have our mission statement, and have just talked about mission as being the driving force behind the agency functioning. We will now consider what specifically the agency will address. By identifying the mission statement, the agency has acknowledged a general perceived need in the community. Before we decide what services to put in place, we need to clarify that need. Okay, so here's our mission statement. So how do you know what services are appropriate to provide? We have a mission statement. So how do you know what services we need to put in place?
What about some family need and housing?
The first we can't come up with the services yet. We need to figure out how we're gonna arrive there.
Okay.
So what do we need to do next?
Needs assessment.
We need to do a needs assessment, because that's what we do. We do needs assessment. Okay. You must understand the needs and the resources in the community through a comprehensive assessment before you select activities, services, and strategies that you will provide. Community assessment is a systematic process for creating a profile of the needs and the resources, assumptions, and opinions of the community or targeted population. So let's look at on 21, what is a community? Cheryl, can you read that for me?
What is a community?
It's 2 paragraphs.
Most frequently, when we think of a community, we think of a group of individuals who are considered together because of the place in which they live or work. Thus, a community, a place, or a place-based community. Such a community can be a state, a county, or a group of counties in a region, a neighborhood, town, or other geographically specific place. We can identify a number of other kinds of communities, including communities of action, circumstance, inquiry, interest, position, practice, and purpose. For more information, see the Wikipedia website. It is up to the agency to define its community, either by the geographical location for which it receives funding to serve, or by specific portions of that geography with particular needs, e.g. neighborhood with highest number of low-income residents.
So how would you define community? Could you, any of you define what you think a community would be?
I think it's a,
Neighborhood,
yeah.
neighborhood of homes, houses, churches,
Okay.
and your own family, family.
It could be a zip code area.
Like-minded individuals that have the same
Right.
goals about what they want.
Okay. A group of people sharing the same resources. Okay. Let's turn over to page 22. Okay. Let's have Reverend Johnson read at the top of 22, the first two paragraphs.
These assessments may be thought of as a way to identify the difference between what exists and what should be. Agencies gather information for that decision can be made regarding priority needs to address the outcomes that can be achieved. The assessment of community needs forms the link between the agency's mission and the outcome it will achieve with its services.
Okay. Let me have, Thornton read, the paragraph and go over the categories of the
Linkage, self-sufficient, health, service for youth, service for senior citizens.
Okay. Now, if you look at the domains in your book, they are a bit different from the domains I have listed here. Because in 1998, legislation served as the framework, which is the ones I believe that are in the book. Now, we have, until the National Theory of Change was adopted, these became the new categories of domain: employment, education, and cognitive development, income infrastructure and assessment building, housing, health and social behavior development, civic engagement and community involvement. And we have a few other domains: services supporting multiple domains, linkages, agency capacity building, and others. But if you look over here, which is the new, adopted, the National Theory of Change, you see under service strategies, you may have it, I don't know if you have it in your book where you can see it closer. Services strategies, you see those same categories of domains listed. Employment, education, and cognitive, all across, those are the same domains. Okay? Okay, and just identifying a domain is not the same as identifying a need. The list of domains could include needs that are expressed by individuals or families, or that are bigger issues that impact the whole community. Let's look at the 6 national goals over here. Here they are. Under the 6 national goals, we have 1 and 6 are family goals. And 2 and 3 are community goals. And then 4 and 5 are agency goals under the 6 national goals. Agency capacity, as one of the national goals, the importance of agency capacity is embedded in the reference to local organization standards and in the foundational statement at the bottom of the page, so we cannot forget the importance of agency level. And I think that's it at the bottom. Okay. And you see, everything we do is centered around family, agency, and community. right here on the 6 national level, family, agency, and community. Let's turn over to page 23. We're getting ready to do an activity. We're looking at the domain of education on page 23. How many of you feel that there is a need in the community for education?
I do.
Remember that the work of our network is to include 3 levels of outcomes: family, agency, and community. When we think about needs in our community, we see them in these 3 levels as well. Let's think about the different levels of need in the domain of education. So Cheryl's gonna come up and scribe for us. Look at this guy over here. When I call him up, and the man that I want to do, he just pull it up.
Okay.
Perhaps you feel education is an issue in our community because we have a high dropout rate that is above the state average. Is it an issue that you recognize? We could state this as individuals do not have high school diploma. So would you think that is a family, agency, or community need? Individuals do not have high school diploma.
Family.
Family. Okay. The issue related to education could be considered to be a community problem, because when there are many individuals without high school education, the community has an undereducated workers and citizens. Also, research shows that if a parent lacks high school diplomas, their children are likely to have problems in school too. We could say our community does not have youth who are prepared to take productive roles as adults. This could be considered a community level need. So, what level need we think this is?
What we choosing for?
Our community does not have youth who are prepared to take productive roles as adults. Is it family, agency, or community?
Family.
Community.
Community. Because it kind of gives it away.
Oh.
Okay. And we have one more. Some agencies become involved in the issue of high dropout rate by having adult customers who have not graduated high school. Some agencies have GED preparation programs. Perhaps with the knowledge of an increasing dropout rate in the area, the agency may need additional resources. Our agency needs additional resources to establish or expand GED preparation programs for adult customers who have not graduated high school. Is it family, agency, or community?
Agency.
Okay, very good, thank you all.
We count on at the end.
Okay, there are many other needs related to education. Some possibly input would be children from low-income families are not school ready for school. So kind of listen to these ideas for the next activity. Our community does not have qualified teachers in the schools. Our agency lacks expertise to assist uneducated adults. So when we start the next activity, let's say, if a family needs child care, that is a family level need. But if there is no affordable child care in the community, that is a community level need. So you see how it switches? See, it could be all 3, but you need to pick one. Yes, not having child care services in the community means that the family will not be able to secure child care. But if you can address the family need by helping one family to address the community need, you will have to work with others to create a new opportunity for child care. This is where the agency level need can also be identified. Does the agency have the capacity to provide child care itself? Have the resources, the facility, or the personnel? This would this would identify the agency need. Note, the agency may not want to provide child service, and it is okay as it is. So there would not be an agency need in this situation. If an individual does not have a place to live, this is a family level need. You can help that one individual find a place to live. But if the community lacks available housing options, this is a community need. And your agency may work with others to create more housing. So that's where you could go in collaboration with other agencies to get that done. So, now we're getting ready for our next activity. And you got to remember, I don't want you to give me one word. You got to make a complete sentence now. So just saying education is a need in the community will not help you to understand the situation. It is too broad, which means that you will not be able to consider a strategy address the situation, okay? You can't say that it's all three of them. You have to pick one. Okay, so let's get ready to do our activity. So we're gonna turn over to page 24. It says, what are the community needs? Clearly identify the need in your community will help you understand the outcomes you want to achieve and appropriate strategies addressing the situation. So it said, now this is what I want you to do, listen good. Identify 3 issues, concern, barriers, challenges, or other situations facing the clients in your community. Write these below using a couple of words or a sentence. I want you to do this individually right now. And then what you're gonna do next is partner up with the person next to you. So do we have 2 people? Yeah, perfect. So, write your first need on paper. And if you can, try to give me 2. And remember, you should start, it would be much easier to identify your need if you start with our agency needs, our agency lacks, our community needs, our community lacks, individuals need, individuals lack. And the reason for that is easier for us to identify whether it's a family, community, or agency need that you're talking about. So you have 2 minutes.
Real say,
And make sure you're not writing in the manual. You're writing on your scrap sheet of paper. I kind of gave you some ideas when that's why I was telling you to listen up closely. Try to put down at least 2 needs. See, can you think of another need? Hopefully we won't have to go around the room twice, but we may have to complete the activity. begin with Ms. Thornton. She's gonna give us Cheryl, cause we all scribe, but it's, kind of opinion. She's gonna be our scribe.
I'll be sitting in the back. Pick the
So,
wrong,
Okay.
family like of affordable housing.
And at the end of each one of these, you take this slash.
Okay.
That's gonna be our count.
Okay, well, can I do like an asterisk? Can I-
Well, you got to put it, you need to.
Okay, a slash.
Okay, Bill.
Families that have limited, literacy skills.
Second.
Families that have limited literacy.
Can I put it over here,
skills.
Susan? Up on
Oh,
the-
right.
Okay. Say it again, families.
Families have limited, literacy skills.
Limited literacy skills. At the
Oh,
end.
right.
Okay.
Okay, Stephanie.
Okay, family need housing they can afford.
Family or families
Families,
need
housing they can afford.
Okay. Craig.
Mine is a community, does it have to stick with family? Can it be a community?
Whatever your first need is, get it.
Okay, community lack resources for food pantries.
And, Sarah.
Mine would be family lack of housing.
And, Carmen.
Families have lack of education.
families have lack of education.
Okay, and Reverend Johnson.
Okay, elderly individual like enough food for 30 days supply.
Okay, President.
Community lack of transportation.
Don't wanna stay on Cheryl. Take,
Community lack of transportation.
Like,
We have one more. Hopefully we'll get it on there.
at least,
Say it again, Val.
Families like an opportunity of employment.
Okay.
Okay, Cheryl, you can hand it over to me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You did a great job. And you all did a great job. So now we got to take a look at these and we got to determine, if any of them can be grouped. Do they say the same thing? It just don't want to speak. Okay, families lack of affordable housing. Do you see anything, anything else on here that identifies with that?
Families lack of housing.
So we could say, put those two together.
Yeah.
And we would probably put an extra mark in here. And, can you identify any other ones?
Family.
So we have two.
Families
like a limited education.
Any families have
Literacy and
Let's see. Families lack education, that's one. And where's the other one?
Family have the second one.
Families have limited literacy skills. That's, we would make that, that would be two. Okay, so far we have two, they're pretty much saying the same thing.
It's another.
No,
one
you
that
got
says
to
the
read
same
those.
thing.
And families need housing, that's the same as one in
Yeah,
three.
affordable housing.
And,
So that would give us three markings.
That's about the same.
And that's about, okay, and I think that's about it. You
no,
see
it's the
anything?
one that, with the, lack of
Families
resources.
have lack of
for
education.
food pantries, and then the elderly individuals lack enough food for 30 days.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we have the lack
Lack
of
of
food
resource food
pantry. That would be, and the lack of, where's the other one?
The bottom.
The elderly individual right above,
Right there.
there.
Yeah, okay, so that would be two, food, lack of food pantry. This was for the food pantry. Okay, so the highest count that we can see so far is gonna be families lack of affordable housing. We got 3 scores
Okay.
for that one. So, now let me ask you this. So we know that, okay, families lack of affordable housing, is that a family, agency, or community?
That's a
Need,
family.
family, so we would put family there. What about families have limited literacy skills? Would that be agency, family, or community?
That would be family too, wouldn't it?
Okay, yes. Families need housing they can afford.
Agency.
Families need housing they can afford. Would it be family, agency, or community? Family. It kinda gives it away. Communities lack resources for food pantries. Would that be family, agency, or community? Community. And families lack of housing. Family, agency, family. And what about families have a lack of education? Family, agency, or community?
Community. Well,
Families have lack of
family.
education. Family. Okay. Elderly individuals lack enough food for 30 days.
Community.
Would it be family, agency, or community? Families have lack of education.
Family? I don't
No,
know.
That's family.
elderly individuals lack enough food for 30 days, I'm sorry. That would be family.
I know I'm right, but I don't have to.
Lack of transportation.
Community. Lack of
Okay.
transportation.
Community lack of transportation.
Community.
I guess it would be community, probably would be restructured. Families lack opportunity for employment. Would it be family, agency, or community? Families?
Family.
Okay.
Could that not be community also?
It could, you could change any one of these to fit, community, agency, or agency. They could be revised to fit into one of those. We'll talk about that though. So, our main need on here would be families lack of affordable housing. That's gonna be it for today. That's our need. And I'm gonna lay this over here. We'll post it later. Thank you all for your participation in that activity. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our in, which is need, and we're gonna post it here. Okay? So, I wanna let you know that this is a completed census priority needs assessment or a key informant survey. Think about these questions, not to discuss them right at this time. Is your community action agency addressing these key issues? Are the community action agency programs and services addressing the need? Remember that our agencies are in business to address the need. Does the mission link to these needs? You are the experts. Together you have conducted a key informant survey, and that your comments represent expertise that is useful in conducting this mini needs assessment. Okay, so, now you know this is not a real needs assessment, because we would have to do more work. Okay? The process we use to determine needs as well as to identify the magnitude of the needs in the community according to the expert is often called a key informant survey. Whose need is it? Let's go over to page 25. Who are the customers and what do they value? We're talking about Peter Drucker. He is a business management consultant. And we have his book back here, books back here. These are his books. If you're interested in having one, it's good reading. We could get you one in the main office, okay? If you're interested in reading. You still have this? I think most of us may have this one from years ago. So let's begin on page 25, and I have Craig start reading to the end of the bullet.
Okay. Who are the customers? What do they value? As we consider assessing community needs, emphasis should be placed on making decisions and setting priorities based on information gathered from the people likely to be affected by the needs. Drucker question 2 is, who are our customers? Drucker identifies 2 types of customers. The primary customers who are the recipient of services and whose lives will be impacted by direct participation. The supporting customers who may be funders, policymakers, family members, partners, and others who have input into the service.
Okay, so we're dealing with, I got too much stuff up here. Okay, so we're dealing with Peter Drucker, 5 questions. Over here, we're gonna be dealing with, the second question, who is our customer? And what does the customer value, number 3. Those are the only 2 we're talking about in this, in this review. So we need to be paying attention to who our customers are, because customers change. They don't stay the same. Let's move to, have someone read the other part. Start with both of these customers must be assessed. Stephanie?
Both of these customers must be assessed. Drucker also cautions, customers are never static. The organization that is devoted to results will adapt and changes as they do. Drucker question 3 is, what does the customer value? The question, what do customer value? What satisfies their needs, wants, and aspiration is so complicated that it can only be answered by the customers themselves. Nonprofit leaders tend to be convinced they are doing the right things and are so committed to their cause that they come to see the institution and in itself, rather than asking, does it deliver value to our customers? So begin with your assumption and what you believe your customers value. Then you can compare these beliefs with what customers actually are saying. Find the differences and go on to assess your results.
Okay. Drucker introduced the word customer that some use for help seekers served by the agency. The word customer also appears in the 1993 Government Performance and Result Act legislation that requires federal agencies, those they fund, to have an outcome framework. What participants call recipients of their services? What do you call the people that come into your office every day? Let's say Robert Johnson. You call them clients?
I call them customers.
What we have found out is that the agency needs to establish what they're gonna call their customer. That's gonna be very important. We all need to be on one accord with that. Whether we're gonna use, it's not one way wrong or right, but we need to decide whether or not we're gonna call them client customers or
But you know what,
participants.
because I
Client
consider a
and customer
customer
different.
is someone that's
Working in
paying for
stores.
something.
Yeah.
A client is someone that's getting service.
Yes.
So that's something that, we need to take a look at.
Grocery stores.
Purchase.
An exchange of goods and services, that's the customer.
Yeah.
The customer is always supposed to be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on. It is important for the,
Did she? We changed it to customer, but not the rate.
okay, so we need to be on one accord.
We were told to change it
That's right.
from client to customer.
You was told to change it.
Yeah.
When was this?
By whom?
It was before your time.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, so we're gonna take a look at it later, but we need to get on one accord as to how we're gonna do it. It is important for the participants to agree to use the term customer. It is important for them to consider how the terms we use for those who we serve may have different meanings to them and to the public. In fact, in this course, we will use the term client and customer at different times. Primary customers are those who directly receive services. These could be individuals or families, which is the most common primary customer. Other primary customers will be communities, agencies, or part of an agency. The primary customer is never the only customer. Supporting customers are those who directly receive services or those who support the services. Could be a family member, not receiving the service, or it could be an elected official, United Way agency, referral or contracted agency, or other funders, all of whom have a vested interest in the Community Action Agency outcome. So, do you all know of any supporting customers? They may not,
You just say something like United Way.
United Way could be a supporting customer.
What
They
about
don't
Red Cross?
directly receive, services, because the primary customer is the person that actually comes in and receives assistance. But a supporting customer,
What about Red Cross?
They could be a supporting customer.
Salvation Army, Salvation
Yes.
Army.
Okay,
United Way?
yes. Okay, community action agencies must identify needs from both the primary and supporting customers, and right to communicate outcomes that meet the needs of both. The second message to convey to participants is that customers change, and they do. Customers group aren't static. The characteristics, needs, wants, aspiration of current customers potentially evolve, and there are often entirely new customers the organization must satisfy to achieve results. It is important for agencies to think ahead to how your customers will change. And customers change, their values change. A customer may come in, you may talk to a customer and you think you know what they need, and you find out it's something totally different from what you think that they would need. It may be something simple. So you always ask the customers. Because while we are the expert, guess what? We are not the customer. Okay, let's move on to let's delete this first. It says, just as we did a key informant need assessment in the previous exercise to draw out our perception of priority needs, all agencies have an awareness of the needs of their customers. However, you must be careful to check that your perception match your values. Listen to customers, accept what they value as objective fact, and make sure the customer voice is part of the discussion and decision, not just during the self-assessment process, but continually. Is there a perceived value in the client? There's a higher likelihood that the program or services is beneficial to the customer, and a higher likelihood that the program or services interventions results will be a better outcome. For clients that the clients themselves do not embrace, I think these may be our values, not theirs. Sometimes staff identify values, that's what that is, for clients that the clients themselves do not embrace. These may be our values, not theirs. Staff can work with clients to embrace awareness of values beyond their initial perception, but we cannot force clients to embrace the additional values. Asking these two questions can help an agency identify the outcomes that they will work toward achieving. Ask the customers about what they value, and then develop outcomes and methods to measure impact on these elements. Let's move on to page 26. We talked about gathering data for assessment, two kinds of data. We got qualitative data and quantitative data. And qualitative data has an L in it, indicates letters and words, and it's what's considered to be primary data. And quantitative data, it indicates numbers, and it's considered to be a secondary data. So let's look at, let me have someone to read the first paragraph at the top of the page. Stephanie?
When establishing a community profile.
It's on page 26.
Oh, what page?
26, on
Okay.
qualitative data.
Okay, gathering data for assessment, two kinds of data. When we have been exploring one kind of data, qualitative data that you secure from asking someone who they think is important. Qualitative data is primarily used when you want to find the depth and breadth of issue. It provides you with opinions, observation, and other rich, subtle information that you can't get any other way. Qualitative data can be characteristic as data that is presented in words. A simple hint in that the I in qualitative indicates letters or words.
Who would you ask and how would you ask when you're trying to trying to, collect data? Who would you ask, and how would you ask?
First, what type of data are we talking about?
It could be any type data. You're just trying to compile some data. It could be for a report. You're trying to do,
Well, it's for a report. If you go into the school, your data would be the library.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else?
We want to ask our customers.
Ask your customers.
Employed,
Okay, partners. That could be the power company,
yeah.
any person like that. Case management notes. Okay. The other kind of data that you need to gather is quantitative data. Data that will be used to add a more standardized dimension to the perception you have identified. Qualitative data provides information in specific categories such as collected and client characteristics. This is often referred to as demographic data. Agency service data can also be useful to identify number of customers who have applied and those impacted by particular need. Quantitative data can be characterized as data that is presented in numbers. A simple hint is the N, as we mentioned earlier. Okay, and indicate numbers. What kind of statistical data would you collect that might help you examine the needs of the community?
I don't know, would you consider like doing a study or looking at, other studies that have been done about,
Yes.
Communities?
But could you use census?
Census, that's excellent. Okay. Interviewing people, interviewing customers, Chamber of Commerce. Those are places that you can find information. And remember that qualitative data is letters and words. It sells the heart. So if you got a story and then you have your numbers, which are quantitative, but I think most people like numbers. And so they feel comfortable knowing that this many people were serviced and this many people got this or that. But qualitative data is the story behind the words. It sells the hope. Okay, we're on page 27. Cheryl, can you read the top?
Identifying community resources. When establishing a community profile, it is not sufficient to assess only needs. An important aspect of community assessment is identifying the resources that are currently available or are being developed to address the problems, needs, or situations in the community.
Okay. How do you gather information about these resources? I learned throughout the years that the best way to find certain things out is through the customers. Sometimes the customers walk in your office and they may tell you, you know, such and such church is giving away food today. They do that. They do it all the time when they say that. But I even have customers tell me, now don't tell anybody else. But you have your newspaper, Facebook, social media. So that's a way of gathering information. What about resources that are threatened? Just say that, let's read the paragraph down.
What about resources that are threatened? What if your customers don't identify a need because you are filling it with a specific service, and that service is threatened? How did you identify resources that are expected to be lost to the community?
You have to stay alert, okay, of what's going on in the community. Through newspaper, television, social media, word of mouth. And like I said, ask the customers, even your advisory council. Okay. And sometimes when we feel like services are being threatened, and just say that our agency is gonna pay someone's rent, and we can't pay it off. Sometimes we have to go to another agency and work in conjunction with them. If you feel, and so that way you can get, the services for the customer, to help the customer need. But you have to stay on top of what's going on in the community. Okay, we on page, 28. Page 28, and now analyzing assessment data to identify agency priorities. Okay, so, I'd like to mention also that the identification of resources help your agency know where there are gaps in existing service. For example, an unserved geographic area or specific population that is not covered by services indicate that it also helps you to know if another agency has the same mission as yours. Assessment process will help to identify ways that the resources of the other agency be an opportunity for agencies rather than obstacle, collaboration rather than competition. So that was the same thing I mentioned earlier, that we can work in conjunction with other agencies and get some things done. So, let's go to analyzing assessment data to identify agency priority. Raw data is not information, it must be analyzed before it becomes useful. How does your agency analyze the information from your assessment activities to enable you to move forward toward the formulation of a plan? How does your agency analyze the information from your assessment activity to enable you to move toward the formulation of a plan? Can anyone answer?
Reviewing a needs assessment?
Yes. So what we do at our agency is that you take your needs assessment and you look at how many people say they need this, and you count it up. So many people need housing, so many people need food, and you total that, and that's how you derive as what needs are important, and that's what we did today.
Sometimes, Susan, they don't really even know what you're talking about when it comes to, what are your needs in the community. About opening it up and asking the question, well, do you need housing in your community? Do you need, better police protection? Do you need more activities for the children? A lot of times, they can't articulate always, what it is that they think that they need in the community. Yeah.
So that's why you have to talk to your customers.
Right.
And you'll,
Exactly right.
you have to talk to them. And you'll find out that, through conversation that, you open up, and like I said, you may find out that what they need is totally different from what you're thinking.
Right.
Here are some questions to ask to help organize the information. Lemuria, that you read those for us. At the bottom, it says, here are some questions to ask.
Okay. What are some of the root causes of the problem? Why should we be interested in the problem? What can be done to address the issue? Who should address this issue? Do we have control or partial control over this issue? Do we have the capabilities to address the issue? What programs can address the issue? What might we change in our agency that can help address the issue? Can we partner with someone to help address the issue?
Okay. When we collect the data from our needs assessment, we should be referring back to these questions. That's what those questions are for, when we're working with our needs assessment. Okay. So, let's move over to, analyzing data, assessment data to identify agency priorities. That's on page 29. There are numerous methods to help you identify which issues in your community have risen to the top at the list, and ways to help decide which issues the agency will address. We previously did a quick prioritization activity in which we counted up the number of people who agreed that a stated need was the top priority. for the agency to address. This is sometimes called a normal group process or a consensus priority. A few other techniques available but not presented today are identify root causes the 5 ways, force field analysis, comparison technique, cause and effect, trend and analysis. You'll see more about these in more detail in module 5. So let's go over our learning objectives. Okay, now that we have identified some community needs resources, it's time for us to consider what the agency will respond to. So we're going down to our key point summaries. The module stresses the importance of connecting the community needs assessment process to establishment of agency outcomes and agency mission. Introduces a need assessment process that can be accomplished in training and can also be taken back by participants to their own community action agencies. Recognizes the key employment approach where everyone in the room is an expert and something in the community action agency or its community. Stresses that it is necessary to tag each problem, need, or situation by family, agency, or community. Proper identification of the problem sets the path for the solution, where in the agency or elsewhere in the community. Joker question 2 and 3 added dimension to the needs assessment process. Finding out who the customer is and what the customer values adds weight to the key informant assessment. And introduces some important concepts about gathering data for decision making in the agency. Identifies kind of data that can be used. Introduces the concept that data must be analyzed before it becomes useful in planning for agency response. It identifies where on the logic model the needs assessment information will be found. And so we see where we have it in. Okay, so that concludes module 2B.